Well, we've come to the end of our course, and I hope it's been useful. What I've tried to show you is how the technology hangs together and point you in the right direction on some of the decisions you need to make whilst developing code like this. Don't forget that to develop C# classes like we've been doing in this course, you'll need a development environment like Visual Studio 2022 or 2026, or indeed Visual Code. I covered licensing of these products in the previous course. They are Microsoft products. And as such, remember, it's your responsibility to be licensed correctly. So you'll need to do the research and so on like that. Certainly for training and teaching, the Visual Studio 2022 community is free to anybody who's falls into that category. So just some summary points to finish off with. Try to get a sensible naming convention early on. Remember, I showed you what happens if you've got your namespace and your class name the same. You end up having to do, like we saw, employee.employee and so on. So maybe you have a naming convention for your DLL, your naming convention for your namespace, and then your classes and so on like that. Agree coding standards. Classes in a single namespace and DLL like we've been developing, I think makes eminent sense rather than a DLL per class, but that's up to you. Versioning and version checking, well, we just had a little bit of a discussion about that, and it may be that you have to develop some sort of standard way you can put into all your classes. Help methods, maybe with some documentation that people can call either in a test harness or indeed from the app. And if you're developing anything of any size, then I would strongly recommend some sort of source code control, whether you're using Team Foundation services from Microsoft or Git or something like that. That's up to you, but some way of making sure that you've got the source code safe and sound and well documented. You should always consider how you'll support this code. I've gone on about a test harness and so on like that. And it is important. I found it hugely beneficial to be able to say to people, if it works in the test harness, there's nothing wrong with the DLL. If it doesn't work in Syspro, then it's something wrong with Syspro. And to be able to at least start the any support debugging, knowing where to look is a great help. And of course, you can build in methods to help you debug the code and so on like that. I would strongly recommend that you build some documentation on how to use it, whether that's internal or external, but it's always good practice to have certainly specifications and documentation for other people to read, and then decide how best to deploy the code and how you'll upgrade it and so on like that. But I hope that it's been a useful course. It's not easy stuff that we're talking about now, and I would strongly recommend that you have a play, build some silly little class libraries like we've been doing in our course, and just get confident of how it actually works. Until next time, take care. Bye.